All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the House Environment and Transportation Committee for February 7th, Friday. This is our first voting session, but before that, just want to make sure you saw on your desk the kind of status of bills. This is basically everything that's going to be introduced before the deadline at 5 yesterday has been read across. And as you see, we are in a close second place in terms of overall bills in the House. And of course, we also already have bills from the Senate. So a lot of work ahead of us. We will be busy. But I know we will navigate through it together. But feel free to tell any of your colleagues to withdraw some of those bills if it looks like the bars on the graph are too high. Delegate Morgan, you have a question? Yeah.
So when we listened to the floor today, they said there was 1,264 bills. You got 1,853. So how's the math work on this? Unless Mr. Holmes can explain that to us.
Well, some of these are Senate bills and legislative bond initiatives. Okay. So those wouldn't count towards the HBs. I think the joint resolutions also don't count towards the HBs, but other than that, I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah. Delegate Foley, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. What are the numbers at the top?
That's the total. So we have bills in the House that are in this committee, and then we've already gotten some bills from the Senate.
Oh, I see. So the 323 is the House.
Correct. And we've already got 5 bills sent over from the Senate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, just a few reminders about voting, since this is our first voting session for the session, or for some of you, your first voting session ever. The subcommittee chairs will generally present the bills. They'll move the bills, they'll move the amendments. The time for discussion is during that process. Usually we will not need to do a roll call. But if we do a roll call, either because I requested or one of you requests it, when we're going around, that's not the time to explain your vote. Let's do that during the debate and just keep the roll call moving around. But generally, we'll try to do things by voice vote. Doesn't mean we'll have to agree, but if you are a no or a yes, depending on the sort of where the majority is, please raise your hand. I will say your name so that we make sure it's recorded correctly. So please keep your hand up. Please try to pay attention so we don't have to do too many repeats and corrections, which is very hard on the staff. I know we like to pile on as co-sponsors with some bills. As a reminder, we only do that with favorable with amendment bills that are already being amended. Otherwise, again, it's just a lot of work for the staff to do that on a straight favorable bill. So if it's favorable with amendment, we will continue the tradition ENT of doing the pile-on amendment. I will forget more often than not, though, so feel free to remind me that that is the tradition that we want to follow. And again, with that, you will have to raise your hand, and we will. I will say it, and then I think usually the appropriate staffer gets up to read, the appropriate counsel, excuse me, will get up to say the names to make sure we have everybody for the amendment. So I think that is all I have on the reminders, and we can go forward with our voting session. And our first reports are from HB4, Chair Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. HB4 received a favorable recommendation from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. There are no amendments on this bill, Mr. Chair. And briefly, the bill summary is that the bill alters statutory provisions that prohibit unnecessary restrictions on land use related to the installation of solar collector systems. The bill specifies that a restriction on use is unreasonable if application of the restriction to a particular proposal, number one, increases the installation cost of the system by at least 5% over the projected cost of the initial proposed installation, or number two, reduces the energy generated by the solar collector system by at least 10% below the projected energy generation of the initial proposal. Move HB4, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Bill's moved in second. Looks like there's a question from Delegate Terrassa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wouldn't any zoning restriction...
Wait, what?
Wouldn't any this is for zoning, right? This is... It's preventing any local restriction.
Collector solar panels?
Right, but it's prohibiting any local zoning or other regulation.
No, it's not prohibiting any zoning.
If it's over 5%. If it would change the price by over 5%.
Yeah.
But wouldn't anything, like any environmental regulation, change the cost of something by more than 5%?
Not that I'm aware. I don't know of any environmental regulations that would do that. This is particular to the installation of this particular system.
Delegate Rosser, could I just ask council to clarify that this does not
Thank you.
apply to, could you just clarify then?
Thank you. So yes, this is about restrictions on use that take the form of most commonly the bylaws or rules of a condominium or homeowners association, not zoning.
So it doesn't relate to zoning at all?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Ciliberti, did you have a question? Did you have a question, Delegate Ciliberti?
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
No? Okay. Delegate Stewart?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to provide a slightly more clarity. So there already exists in law a provision that says that local homeowners groups or whatever cannot apply unreasonable restrictions on solar generation, and an unreasonable limitation or restriction is defined as something that significantly increases the cost. And so this bill is like 3 or 4 years old, but people on both sides of this issue, both the homeowners groups and the pro-solar installation people, have wanted this bill for several years because no one knows what an unreasonable or significantly increasing the cost means. So they just want to put a number on it so that therefore there's clarity for both sides. That's why this has been a unanimous thing, is because it's rare, but homeowners groups who don't like solar and solar enthusiasts who do actually have come together on this one.
And I'll just note, not quite unanimous. This is important. Last year, this bill was 100 to 38 on the House floor, so keep that in mind when we vote here. Yes, that's usually Delegate Baker's question, correct. Sorry, yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, bill's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, please raise your hand. Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto. Delegate Ciliberti. Delegate Naraki. Okay, bill passes, and it was not a favorable amendment, so we are not doing a pile-on. We'll move on to House Bill 124. Chair Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 124 received a favorable report from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. There are 2 amendments. Amendment number 1 is simply a technical amendment, and amendment number 2 alters terminology to conform to existing practice. And what the bill does, in contracts for sale for owner-occupied residential property, the bill requires a wholesale buyer to disclose to the owner of the property that the wholesale buyer may assign the contract of sale to another person, and requires the wholesale seller to disclose to the prospective assignee that the wholesale seller may not be able to convey title. If the required disclosure is not provided by the wholesaler, the contract of sale may be rescinded by the other party at any time before closing, and the bill applies prospectively. I know there have been some persons had questioned what is wholesaling. A wholesaler is a person who primarily purchases a contract, but not necessarily purchases the house itself. That's what a wholesaler is. With that, Mr. Chair, I would move the amendments.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendments? All in favor of the amendments, signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed to the amendments, amendments
Move
pass.
the bill as amended, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Bill's moved and seconded. Discussion on the bill. Okay, I will discuss and note this bill passed in similar form 141 to 0 on the House floor last year. All in favor of House Bill 124 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Okay, bill passes. This is FWA, so does anybody have a burning need to be added as a co-sponsor?
I would.
Vice Chair Boyce? Just Vice Chair Boyce. You good? Okay. We'll move on to House Bill 127. Chair Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 127 received a favorable report from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. There are no amendments from the committee, Mr. Chair, and the bill, this is a departmental bill that expands the entities eligible to administer local rehabilitation programs under the Maryland Housing Rehabilitation Program and the DHC to include nonprofit sponsors. And although this was not proposed last year, I can advise everyone in the committee that the cross-file bill, SB 238, was approved by the Senate by a 45-0 majority. Move the bill, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Bill is moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Okay, all in favor of House Bill 127, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Okay, bill passes. And we'll move on to House Bill 273. Chair Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 273 received a favorable report from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. There are no amendments to this bill, Mr. Chair, and the bill prohibits a landlord for residential leases only from charging a penalty for the late payment of rent that exceeds 5% of the amount of unpaid rent due to the rent period for which the payment was delinquent. And what I want to make sure that we understand is this is for rent only, the definition of rent, so a maximum of 5%. So this bill has no amendments. This bill was previously introduced in 2024 and received a vote from the House floor of 113 to 28. Move HB 273, Mr. Chair.
Okay, bill's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Everybody heard last year's vote count. Okay, all in favor of House Bill 273, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Delegate Siliberte. Delegate Siliberte, you got it? Okay, we will move on. Thank you, Chair Holmes. We'll move on to House Bill 25. Chair Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subcommittee recommendation for House Bill 25 is favorable with amendments. As amended, this departmental bill establishes the Reservoir Augmentation Program in MDE. Person may not perform reservoir augmentation without a permit issued by MDE. The bill establishes provisions governing permit applications and the issuance of permits and also MDE regulations. Even though the title of the bill is reservoir augmentation, the subject is potable reuse of reclaimed water as municipal drinking water source. And this committee may remember 2 years ago we established a pilot. This would make this available on a statewide basis for jurisdictions that would request it but need to be licensed to do it. Subcommittee amendments, those amendments make technical corrections. The chair has an amendment which would require MDE to report back to the governor and the General Assembly on the implementation of the pilot program by December 30, 2029. The amendment also requires MDE to report on the reservoir augmentation program every 5 years. Move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Amendments have been moved and seconded, and if I may, Chair Stein, that amendment that I offered is in response to some ideas raised at the subcommittee by Delegate Otto and others. That was the purpose of that amendment. Delegate Terrassa?
So my question's actually on the bill, probably not the amendments.
All right, why don't we just adopt the amendments, and then we'll get your questions. Is that all right? All right. Any further discussion on the amendments? All in favor of the amendments, signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed to the amendments? Amendments pass.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Bill's been moved and seconded. Delegate Terrassa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there was a pilot project, and this is another pilot project, or this is, did we get reports on the pilot project?
Don't, maybe council can clarify, I don't believe we got an actual report, but MDE has reported in its testimony that the project has gone well, and based on that recommendation, they are proposing to expand it to other jurisdictions who might be interested. Oh, we did get a report. This past December on the pilot project, yeah.
Okay. And they tested the water, or what, yeah?
Yes. Yes, there's regular monitoring of the water, yes.
Okay. I'm still uncomfortable with this, but that was the same last year. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of House Bill 25 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Delegate Terrassa? Just Delegate Terrassa. Yep, let's see, you got it. And this is favorable with amendments. Does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Not all rushing to join the gray water bill, huh? All right.
I would, but it's a problem.
Let's continue with House Bill 338. Chair Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation of the subcommittee was favorable. However, the sponsor of the bill has an amendment, which I'll discuss shortly. This bill generally prohibits state employees or contractors from disposing of yard waste collected on the grounds of a state building or state highway in a single-use plastic container. All such yard waste must be collected in a container that will not be discarded with the yard waste or as a compostable paper bag. Also, the bill requires that all such yard waste be disposed of at an organics recycling facility, a natural wood waste recycling facility, or a state facility with on-site capacity to create mulch or soil amendments. The bill does not apply to a person who is disposing of noxious weeds as designated by the Department of Agriculture or invasive species. And the amendment that Delegate Lehman is proposing adds language that would condition the requirement to dispose yard waste at various facilities in the state on whether there is a nearby facility with capacity to take the yard waste. So I would move the amendment, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments. Okay, I believe the amendment from Delegate Lehman was to respond to questions people had in the subcommittee, so we'll just keep that in mind. All in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the amendments? Amendments pass.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Bill's moved and seconded. Discussion on the bill. Okay, all in favor of House Bill 338 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Delegate Jacobs. Delegate Otto. Delegate Siliberti. Delegate Naraki. Bill passes. We will. I just have to record the no votes first. Don't want you to get confused with that one. So. Okay, anybody wish to be added as a co-sponsor who is not already on it? Please raise your hand. Delegate Healy. Delegate Healy. Okay, we got it. We will move on to House Bill 9. Chair Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 9 is reported favorably with amendments from the subcommittee. Just to remember, the bill is amended, alters existing responsibilities of the Food System Resiliency Council and repeals outdated one-time reporting requirements. Under the bill, the council must develop equity and sustainability policy recommendations to increase the long-term resiliency of the food systems that, one, address and eliminate limited food options and food scarcity that exist in, quote, healthy food priority areas, unquote, rather than food deserts as specified under current law. And two, reduce wasted food rather than the currently statutory references to food waste. Committee amendment strikes language that would have required the council to periodically update the 2021 strategic plan for increasing the production and procurement of Maryland certified food, and instead expands the types of policy recommendations that must be pursued by the council to include recommendations that address the production and procurement of local food. Move the amendment.
Second.
Amendments been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments. All in favor of the amendments, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed to the amendments? Amendments pass.
Move the bill as amended.
Bill's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Okay, all in favor of House Bill 9 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Okay, bill passes. This is favorable with amendment. Does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Delegate Terrassa, Delegate Ruth, Delegate Baylor, Delegate Lehman, Vice Chair Boyce. Delegate Foley, and do you want to be added as a co-sponsor, Delegate Siliberti? Is that a yes? You want to be added as a co-sponsor? Okay. All right.
Oh, Jesus.
Delegate Jacobs, can you help me figure out, does he want to be added as a co-sponsor? No? Okay. Want to read the names, Kristen, to make sure we got it?
I have Delegate Terrassa, Delegate Ruth, Delegate Baylor, and I believe Delegate Foley and Delegate Lehman. Okay.
And Boyce.
And Delegate Boyce.
Wait.
Okay. We will move on to House Bill 40. Chair Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Subcommittee recommendation is straight favorable. Reminder that this is a departmental bill that increases fees for senior sport license, fishing licenses, angler licenses, and trout stamps, and repeals the trout stamp exemption for senior sport fishing license. Move the bill.
Second. Bill's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Okay, all in favor of House Bill 40, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Does anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto, Delegate Ciliberti, Delegate Naraki, and Delegate Morgan. Okay, bill passes. We will move on, I believe, to the Transportation Subcommittee. Chair Stewart, House Bill 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 7 received a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee. HB 7 authorizes a person operating a bicycle when approaching a stop sign in an intersection with a highway that has 2 or fewer lanes for moving traffic to cautiously make a turn or proceed through the intersection without stopping if the person first reduces the speed of the bicycle to a reasonable rate and second yields the right-of-way to any vehicle in the intersection or any approaching vehicle on another highway that is near enough to the intersection to pose an immediate danger. There are no amendments. This bill passed unanimously out of the committee last year and passed on the House floor 119 to 13. Move the bill.
Bill's moved and seconded. Any discussion on House Bill 7? Delegate Ciliberti.
Well, it possibly could be a good bill, but it has an hellacious sponsor problem. Possibly.
Any further discussion on the bill?
Hey, you know you don't beat either.
All in favor of House Bill? All in favor of House Bill 7, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Okay, bill passes unanimously. House Bill 191, Chair Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 191 also received a favorable subcommittee recommendation. HB 191 authorizes a person who tows or removes a vehicle from a parking lot and a police department that takes an abandoned vehicle into custody to send specified notices to a vehicle owner electronically through the MVA. There are no amendments. Move the bill.
Second.
Bill's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Okay, all in favor of House Bill 191, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Okay, bill passes unanimously. We have several withdrawals. House Bill 162, 173, 242, 254, 294, 636, 758, and 1040. I notice many of them are sponsored by members of the committee, so thank you all. I'm just going to make one motion for all of them. Move to accept the withdrawal of these bills. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, bills have been withdrawn. That is it for our work today in the full committee here. Just a reminder about next Friday, as you're making those Valentine's Day plans, we will both have a voting session, we have a fisheries briefing, and we have bill hearings. So keep that in mind. Let your significant other know as soon as possible that next Friday we have a full day here in the full committee room. Anybody have any questions or announcements that need to be made? Okay, enjoy your weekends. Thank you all.